Here we go. A live Locked On Lions squad show starts right now. Jake Riepma fired up to be with you and ready to preview the LA Rams. Natalie Kerwin.
Natalie Kerwin with FanDuel Sports Network. Huge game this coming Sunday. Playoff implications. We will break it all down because we are just looking forward to it. So many different scenarios.
Bradford Banta here, 22-year NFL veteran. Nothing says December football like heading to Hollywood to wreck a number one seed script. And the Lions are bringing their own plot twist to SoFi.
One pride. It's the Lions Squad. Everything Detroit Lions every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Motor City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the roar of the Lions to the next great chapter, the Lions Squad Show starts now.
It sure does, and it took us till December 11th, but I think we got that intro down pretty well, folks. Welcome in, welcome one, welcome all. Fire up that comment section. Let us know where you're watching. If you're watching live, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use that code LOCKDOWNNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And what a time to do a little Thursday live program. The Lions are in LA to take on the Rams. There's always the conversation in this one between Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff, even though they don't actually go against each other at the same time on the field. Of course, we've got Nat's notes. We've got the coach's corner and so much more. So Bradford Banta, I kick it to you first. I think your intro was the most polished right there. But again, guys, I'm patting ourselves on the back for that intro. We did it. It took till December 11th, but we got it down.
Hey, nothing like polishing that stone until you get it smooth. So all good, man. All good. No, I tell you, it's going to be a great game with the playoff implications with the Detroit Lions and going up against the Los Angeles Rams, the number one seed in the NFC right now. And like we were talking about in past shows, the Detroit Lions have been in playoff mode for probably the last 3 to 4 weeks. And they need to get off of the wagon with the win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. They need to get on a streak right here, heading into the playoffs and securing a spot at the table depending on how things play out, one of the case scenarios is be a wild card seat at the table. All you ask for as a coach, as an organization, as a player is just get me in. I want to start playing in the playoffs. Make sure we're there.
Right. And starting with this game, it's huge, right? You're going up against the number one team in the NFC. There's so many storylines there, as you already alluded to, Jake. It's like, okay, Jared Goff, Sean McVay, the revenge there, going to play in their house. Then you throw Matthew Stafford in there for all of us, Lions fans that had so much love for him for so many years. Like, there's just so much there. And obviously winning this game would be a huge statement piece for this group. And of course, for their playoff chances. And of course, too, when you look at the roadmap ahead, it would be great if they could win out. Is it realistic? Yes, you can say possibilities are, you can be positive here and say, yes, it's possible, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be a tough game. It's not going to be easy. And so it's a big game and they know it too. So I'm looking forward to it. And to your point, Bradford, right. They can't be settling for this win-loss. It's got to be, we really got to lock it in right now. I mean, this is up to this point, this is the most important game we've seen. They have to be able to go in there and make a statement. If they can come out of there with the dub, I feel like that's going to shoot them to the top through the rest of the season. They're going to have this sense of we can do anything if they can go in there and get it done on Sunday.
Absolutely. Cue the Dan Campbell to the moon gif that I love to see. And before we continue to dive into this matchup, I'll get this one out of the way right away. My grandmother brought this up to me, as she often does when she's asking and talking to me about the Lions and everything else on our weekly phone call. She said, Jake, I know you don't care for Matthew Stafford, but I still have love for him. As grandma, listen, it's not Matthew Stafford. He's fine. He's having an MVP caliber season. It's incredible what he's still doing. He's still slinging the rock at his age. it's Kelly Stafford. And I'm getting this out of the way right now. And maybe her day after tomorrow, when I feel like ranting podcast or whatever it's called, she can go on and on and on. But there's nobody that I think it's just the bane of my existence, fingernails on a chalkboard. But Matthew's been phenomenal, and still nothing but love for how good he's been playing at an MVP level, which at his age is so impressive now with the weapons he has around him. That's a big reason why this Rams team is really lethal on offense between Puka Nacua and feels like Devontae Adams kind of not reinvented himself, but certainly playing at some, at his highest level. When you look at this Rams team, you don't really have to, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why they've been so successful, Bradford.
No. You throw in, and Blake Corum starting to come onto the scene at running back. They're starting to establish that ground game. I feel like, and we'll get to it into the third segment, just talking about the X's and O's. And Shula has the defensive coordinator, has this unit playing at a high level. But offensively, it's interesting to see. I think Sean and Matthew have a very good relationship on knowing how to attack every defense that they play. And I've worked with Sean whenever I was at the Redskins. He is a very meticulous coach. He is a very bright coach, and he knows what he wants to do. And that's why they have had that success at the Rams for quite a long time. Sean did it with golf, and now he's doing it with Stafford, and he happened to come away with a ring with Stafford.
Sorry, my screen froze for a second. Matthew Stafford, he does have all the right pieces around him. So how do you not thrive when you're in that situation? Another guy that we didn't even bring up was Kyron Williams, and another guy to bring up on the ground game as well. So when you have that working in the air and on the ground, just like the Lions have here, though, we have it working as well on both sides of it too. So you have two great offenses going up against each other in that sense. But, Matthew Stafford, agreed, at his age, how old is he now? 30?
Oh,
you guys know? I know. Question.
Yeah, he came in 2009. So right. It was the funny part about it, because I was on the staff whenever we drafted him, and he could not legally get into a bar. So he was 20 years old whenever he was drafted.
Google AI says 37. I had that upper 30s in my head. So
he's got another good 8 years left in him. Hey,
yeah,
you never know.
Phillip Rivers might be strapping it up.
Oh my gosh!
We're going to get started on that too.
Let me do that. Nat's notes.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you got that in Nat's notes. We will touch on that.
All right. Yes. I know it had nothing to do with this matchup, obviously, but it had to have been. We had to talk about it. The guy's a grandfather.
Yeah, that's a tease for Nat's notes. We'll for sure get to that. But guys, I wanted to, and obviously this, especially with the schedule, this is a week old, so it's old news. But at the same time, I put on the rundown, can the Lions build off of the success they had offensively, especially in that game against the Dallas Cowboys at home? And I almost FaceTimed you guys for the Friday morning meltdown at 105.3 The Fan and the flagship radio station of the Dallas Cowboys, because it was real. And this was again, I know we're going too far in the past, but it was a Cowboys team that was playing their best football. They were on an absolute high, and for good reason, down that Thursday night at Ford Field. And again, just something about reveling in an opposing team's meltdown the day after. I probably took way too much joy in that, but it was very entertaining. But on the flip side, now it's up to the Lions to use that and but propel forward in this game against the Rams. And you get kind of that mini bye that we've talked about, and they did not come off the bye well against Minnesota at home. Hopefully this time around will be a little bit different, Bradford Banta.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup, and I can't stress to the audience enough of how big that mini bye has come into play. And they had to wait a week after Thanksgiving, but I think it came at an ideal time just because of, and Nat will touch on the injuries and getting players that they have brought in acclimated to the defense with the Brian Branch situation. Because what you're looking at here is you're looking at the Rams. They're at 10-3 right now. They're number one in the NFC. So they're averaging 29.2 points per game. We're tops in scoring offense, meaning Detroit Lions. But what you have to take into account is they have a top tier defense, and they're only allowing 17.5 points per game. So something has to give in that situation with the Detroit Lions offense and the Los Angeles Rams defense. And, because Matthew is leading the league with 35 touchdown passes in his options. How can Calvin Shepard bait him into making bad throws and forced turnovers? That's going to be one of the keys of the game. And then if you go back to the Dallas Cowboy game, and I know we touched on it post game, in the opening drive, the Lions wanted to make a statement. And it wasn't running the ball. It was passing the ball. And they got the ball out quick. They got Goff into a rhythm. And it just lasted the entire game. The only time, and I know we talked about this in post game, but that seemed like an eternity ago. But the only time they ran the ball is whenever they got inside the 10-yard line. And they ran Gibbs. And it's going to be interesting to see how they plan on attacking the Los Angeles Rams defense. And you already know that they're going to be putting the Rams are going to be putting the ball in the air, trying to pick who they're, and it's going to be, I'll be curious to see who they're going to pick on from a secondary standpoint. Guys, we're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves just because, all this is the coach's corners, but who knows when we're going to go off rails, and who knows when I'm going to get to say this again, because whenever we do go off rails, it's I think it's a sight to see, because you never know where we're going to go whenever we're talking about this upcoming game.
That is why you like and subscribe, and why Locked On is the #1 sports podcast platform. That's a big time strike against yours truly. 12 minutes, 50 seconds before we got the #1 sports podcast platform. And here I was, complimenting our intro. Your guys' intro was great. I forgot to say #1 sports podcast platform. That's on me.
Hey. So, okay, stop and think about it. Like, who is the engine for the Detroit Lions offense right now? I mean, obviously everybody's going to say it's Jahmyr Gibbs. Easy, right? I had the good fortune of being with the Saints back in 2017 whenever we had that draft class. And we drafted Alvin Kamara in the 3rd round. And I'll go ahead and say it right now, because he had bounced from Alabama to Tennessee, and there was another running back that was there that took a lot of time away from Alvin. But I dove down, and I wanted to get him just strictly as a punt returner and a kick returner. I said he was going to be day one punt returner, kick returner. And then once the offensive coaches started watching the film of him returning and some of his offensive snaps, and then going up to Knoxville and watching him for an individual workout, the offense was like, oh no, he's ours now. I'm like, God, dog. That's the kind of player that Jahmyr Gibbs reminds me of, is whenever Alvin first broke onto the scene and played as well as he did. And it's kind of a similar situation because you had Alvin and you also had Mark Ingram in the running back in the backfield. But it also helped whenever you had Drew Brees and Michael Thomas and a couple of other receivers. So there's a lot of correlation between that Saints team and the current Detroit Lions team that you can see. But it's hands down that Jahmyr is the engine that's driving this offense right now, and everything centers around him. And I know I've said it before, but I'm curious to see if they're going to use him in a slot type situation but have Montgomery in the backfield, and just to see how defenses will match up against that. So it's curious to see if they would go base or if they would go nickel in those situations.
I know, that's the beautiful thing about him, is you can put him in either spot, use him as a receiver, use him just as a typical running back, and he's still just as effective. And he continues to impress. It was on Thursday, right, when he hit because it does feel like an eternity ago. I know we keep laughing about that, but that's when he hit 47 touchdowns, correct? Tying Barry Sanders' record for most by the age of 24. Most touchdowns by the age of 24. Yes.
With 4 games left to play.
Which is incredible. And who knows what he's going to hit by the end of the year and into the playoffs. I'm manifesting it. So, who knows? But he is amazing. He is the engine that makes the train go for this group. And so, back to the original question though, Jake, about, can this team take the momentum from Dallas into this game? I absolutely think they can. I think, does a bye week sometimes, can it affect, because you have a little bit longer time in between games? I do think about that, but I think this was also good in the sense that guys had time to rest up a little bit and get ready for a big, a game on the center stage like this. And I think they know what's ahead and what they have to do. So I think, we talked a lot about identity and the team finding their identity and figuring that out. And I think, Thursday night's game was an example of that. And they're going to have to dig deep and find that, especially with Brian Branch being out. And we're going to get into that in the next segment. So if that was not a great segue, boom, let's go.
Yeah. We don't even have to toss it to you for a tease or anything. You just flawlessly included it as a wrap up. So there you go. Nat's Notes coming up next right here on a live Locked On Lions Squad show. Today's episode of the Locked On Lions Squad show is brought to you by our good friends over at Prize Picks. You guys make decisions every single day, and being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action than right now. And if you haven't tried it, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players' stats, and if you get them right, ding, 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 you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, and that includes California, Texas, and Georgia. I love picking my favorite players, like maybe Jahmyr Gibbs, more touchdowns, because he's going to get that. And the new sacks feature, it's awesome. It's a game changer. You can now pick more on points, 3-pointers, and assists all in the same lineup with the same player. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use that code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Highlight of the program. It's Nat's Notes right here on the #1 sports podcast platform, the Locked On Podcast Network, the Locked On Lions Squad show. Take it away.
What an intro. Thank you, Jake Riepma.
We need some production value intro of like.
I told you we need like the lights, the sounds, the bells, the whistles, something. We'll get there.
Yeah, I'll get
lock down our perfect intro today. We'll get the other stuff in time.
I'll get our hardworking staff on that. The production team, the producer, everybody.
Perfect.
Boy. I like it.
We got a great team.
We're here to snap our fingers. There we go.
I love it. Well, we're going to start with the bad news first, because we don't always like that, but we got to get it out of the way because it is the elephant in the room right now, and I already alluded to it. Brian Branch, you guys, sigh. If that DB room hasn't taken enough of a beating this year, I don't know. I don't know what else to say, but Brian Branch out for the rest of the season with an Achilles injury, and he did have a successful surgery according to Dan Campbell, but he suffered that last week against Dallas. And so once again, this Lions secondary has to figure out ways to try and, take the Legion of whom, take whoever to step up in the absence of now, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, who still doesn't have an exact timetable. Terrion Arnold. I mean, you could go down the list of guys who are not available in that room. And so, and then Thomas Harper as well, who's still in concussion protocol. So it's just, it's awful. It sucks. And so Bradford, as you said, it's going to be interesting to see how the Rams game plan for that and who they're going to be trying to pick on in the Lions secondary in that game on Sunday. So, I mean, it's an 8 to 12 month timeline for recovery. Achilles injuries are never easy. And so, obviously you miss a Pro Bowl level guy like Brian Branch. Unfortunate timing to lose a guy like this, especially when you're trying to do everything you can to make your playoff chances the best it can be, and win these next 4 games and do everything to the best of your ability. But how realistic, how can you take this injury and try and patch that and fix that room as best you can into these next 4 games? And I'll get to who the Lions just signed, but when you look at that, you guys, and how much of a blow that is, how realistic of a fix is this heading into the next, 4 games in the last part of the regular season?
Yeah, let's just look at what's immediately ahead of us. And we're talking about the Los Angeles Rams. So you have a heady coach and you have a heady quarterback that you're going to be going against. And you're Calvin Shepard, and you are trying to, prevent their offense, which is averaging, 29 points a game. What are you trying to do? How are you going to attack Matthew Stafford, defensively? And it's going to come down to taking care of Nakua and stopping
all-time
the
great
run.
name, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. Puka Nakua. I mean, can we all agree that's just that's a top 5 name in the NFL?
Yeah, as long as he doesn't freaking stream in the locker room whenever guys are getting dressed.
We got to grow up a little bit, Puka.
Yeah, you got to grow up. But anyway, it's losing Branch is big. I mean, you're talking about he's a chess piece that you can play in a lot of different positions. And he is, God, he's just in it, and it's going to be by committee. And it's up to the staff to figure out what each one of those DBs does best, and to make sure whenever the appropriate defense is called, that appropriate safety is, or nickelback, however you want to put it, is in the game for that particular situation. Now, you're going to hold on to your pants if the defense has to check to another coverage, which the safety that is best for that coverage is on the sidelines. So that's where you're going to have to mask it. And the key is just preventing the chunk plays by the Los Angeles Rams. And that's how I think going into this game, that's how the secondary is going to be judged after the game is over. How many chunk plays did they prevent, or how many did they give up, or if they gave up any at all? So you have to prevent those. And what I mean by chunk plays is 20 plus yards on a passing attempt or a 10 plus run. So if you can keep those to a minimum and make the Rams kick field goals at worst, kick field goals and not score touchdowns, I think that the Lions can come away.
The other thing I'll add, and not that there's any good news in any of this, but it's not uncharted waters. The Lions were without Branch for a game because of the suspension. And I know that's going to sound like me being the hater that I am, but no, we saw how much, how costly it is not having him in the lineup because of the dynamic playmaker he is. And I don't want to be a broken record and just, repeat everything Bradford said, but man, it just, when it rains, it pours. And I know looking in the rearview mirror doesn't do any good, and nobody on this team is, but objectively looking at this Lions team, it's the most obvious thing you can say. They're not the same with Brian Branch. So it'll be I'm struggling to come up with something other than it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But that's kind of where we're at in this particular matchup against, one of the most dynamic top passing attacks in all the league. It's the first unveiling of what this Lions defense will look like without Brian Branch.
Because here's the question I wanted to ask is, because, we talk about Puka Nacua, but you look on the other side, who do you have over there? Davante Adams. Exactly. So who are you going to bracket? Who are you going to man up? Who are you going to double team? There's only so many players out on the field.
Right. That was part of the Cowboys meltdown post the loss in Detroit, was the just abysmal performance from George Pickens. The Lions did a great job of limiting him, but then Floor had a breakout game out of nowhere because the Lions were predicated on stopping Pickens, but that's way in the past.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I wish we were a fly on the wall for that for that morning show.
Oh yeah, I was gloating, guys. Don't worry.
You're making us proud, Jake. No worries.
Thank you. Yeah, I got fired on the spot, but it's cool. No, I'm kidding.
You're like, and here we are, and here's that breaking news.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Still employed.
And not that this will be an answer for Sunday, but looking ahead, the Lions did make a veteran signing to their practice squad, former 2018 interceptions leader DeMonte Casey. He was signed by the Lions just on Monday, and they're hoping to ramp him up quickly to try to get him on the 53-man roster. So drafted by the Falcons in 2017. People are excited about him just with that veteran presence. Hopefully could maybe bring something to the DB room, of course, now with, guys going down like flies. So hopefully that can be someone that we see, maybe not obviously this game, but looking ahead. But we're focused on the Rams right now, but had to bring that up because that was something that was a big piece of news that happened this week as well. Arthur Millette was re-signed to the practice squad as well. And Jalen Mills too. So that's, a new part of the DB room makeover, we will call it. Moving on to the O-line, Christian Mahogany's return window started this week. I know they've been playing musical chairs a little bit there. They're hopeful they'll get him back at some point this season. Dan Campbell talked about that yesterday at his press conference. His return could happen as soon as this week or next, according to Christian, when he spoke with the media, but no exact answer on that. So we will see. Obviously, we've seen, it's been a rotating spot at the guard position right now. We've seen Miles Frazier get some reps there against the Dallas Cowboys. We've seen Tristan Colon there as well. Keoti Awasika in there too. So when you look at all the names that have been thrown in there at different spots, we've talked about the O-line and how well they've meshed and, plug and play at different spots. Where they're at right now, you guys, are you nervous going into SoFi with the group they have right now?
Oh, hell yeah.
Comfortability you have right now with the group that's healthy.
If I have to look at that little weasel, Sean McVay, no, I'm just kidding. I have nothing but respect for him. He's a brilliant play caller. I did hate, though, when he, not only just threw Jared Goff under the bus, but then ran it over him like 3 or 4 times. But that's way in the past. But no, like Bradford said, you've
obviously not for you. Holy cow.
Bradford, this is talk radio guy coming out. We gotta have opinions on everything. Yeah, I'm nervous as hell. I mean, Christ almighty. This is one of those games that if I'm on the coaching staff, and Bradford, you've been there, I can remember my dad would just have this look in his eyes before Northwood games, probably when they were going up against Ferris State, Nat's dad over at Ferris State. Just, there's just this, like, you don't sleep. Like you're pacing, you're constantly just having these flashes. And I imagine, you know, it's not fear. It's just because you're such a competitor and you have respect and an awareness and an acknowledgement of how talented that team you're going up against is. And it's up to you to stop them. And that's just a anxiety ridden place to be.
It is an anxiety place to be, but it also boils down to how did your week of preparation go?
Yeah.
And deciding on, like, whenever Hank Fraley shuffles that deck, and I mean the offensive line deck, because that's essentially what has been happening, especially in the center guard position all season long. And even the left tackle position. It seems like Penei Sewell, if I remember correctly, has started every game. That is the only position that has started every game. And if you look at if you want to see how well a team does, you look and see how the continuity for each one of those teams within the O-line happens. And it's very important for them to have continuity, and how quickly Hank Fraley can get those members, those 5 members of the offensive line, to gel quickly and communicate effectively, because there's going to be, obviously you're going to have your 4-man rush, and then you're going to have the simulated pressure, and then you're going to have your pressure. How does the O-line respond with communication and picking these things up, and then communicating it with Goff to set them in the right protection mode? It's ever so important.
Right. It's going to be obviously a huge part of what to watch for, as it is every game, but it's always just interesting to see how that group continues to mesh, especially throwing a rookie in there last week, as we saw with Miles Frazier, and just as guys continue to get healthy, and when Christian Mahogany does come back, how much that'll help. As we look at more guys too that could possibly come back on Sunday. Khalif Raymond, he's missed the last 2 games, but returned to practice on Wednesday. But we've seen Isaac Tesla and Tom Kennedy play well in his absence, so that's been a positive to look at. Alex Anzalone, he missed practice this week with an illness, but should be fine come Sunday. And then to wrap this thing up, looking at the Rams injury report, Davante Adams, he did not practice with a hamstring injury, so that is something to look out for. That would obviously be huge for the Lions to not have that piece of their puzzle there. And then Byron Young, a big part of their defense, he had limited participation in practice this week with a knee injury. So those are 2 players to look out for on their injury report. So hopefully these Lions can continue to get healthy this week, and it'd be nice if Davante Adams could stay on that injury report too. So but that wraps it up for that. And then of course Phillip Rivers. I'm not ending Nat's notes without talking about this, you guys. So Let's talk about it. The guy's a grandpa. Where were you when you found out the news?
I had to do like the refresh and check and make sure I wasn't, getting the fast one pulled on me by all those fake accounts out there, the fake Schefter Twitter accounts and everything else. I was like, this can't be happening. But I watched the press conference. He doesn't exactly look like a NFL ready quarterback, but hey, Bradford, slim pickings out there.
Hey, from what I've read, they went to any and all before they picked Phillip Rivers, and they got turned down. They even went to a former Colts draft pick that is on Denver's practice squad, and he turned them down. He's staying in Denver. They went to a lot of people, and they gave him a call, and look, you can't turn it down. I mean, no. I was thinking about this because it's been since 2020. He's already filed for retirement. So the only thing he's doing now, he's not accumulating years for his pension or accumulating years for insurance or anything like that, because once you file your retirement, you're done. Now he's just collecting a paycheck. That's all he's doing. And he wants the chance to compete. And they convinced him to come back and hey, let's see what you got. He worked him out. I mean, they worked him out. I think he's still officially on the practice squad, but my man's going to be starting on Sunday.
Yeah,
He's going to get quickly elevated. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting to see.
Well, I'm just glad he didn't, get a grade 3 hamstring strain running from the couch, to the game or to the plane.
I had the same thought, Bradford. I'm like, at least it wasn't a Frank Ragnow situation.
Man.
Yeah.
We'll tie it back into the lines that way, Nat. How about that?
Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, anyways, back to the Lions. We got to figure out how they're going to get this thing done on Sunday. Bradford, are you going to lead us there?
I will in the next segment. So, Coach's Corner up next.
Today's episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends over at ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Hey, listen up, my friends, because it's 2025, almost 2026. In those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, yeah, they're over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and ZocDoc makes that easier than ever, because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. ZocDocs makes scheduling easier, so you can search for in-network doctors and book right in the app. Real appointment times are listed, including same-day visits, and there's no more back-and-forth phone calls or waiting weeks to be seen. It's super helpful for routine checkups and those little issues you've been meaning to get checked out. Makes it simple to help keep your health a priority, even with a busy schedule. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Use that promo code LockedOnNFL. It's time for the Coach's Corner, and for that, it's the 20-year NFL vet, player, coach, you name it. Our star, our superstar.
No. We still have the rose. We still have the rose. Yeah. So
we still have me just blabbing over here. I don't know what I bring to the table. So
you keep us on track. You keep us on track.
We're like 8 minutes over. I didn't say number one Locked On Podcast Network. So I really have to do some self-reflection. I don't know what I bring to the table, guys.
Okay. Let's look. I tell you what, let's dive into this. So let's look at the macro picture. Who's going against who? So you have the Lions offense. They're averaging 30.3 points per game. And they're also averaging, that's number 1 in the NFL, and they're number 3 in yards per game at 378.7 yards. So, and then, hey guys, they're averaging 6.2 yards per play. That's number 1 in the NFL. And now they're also going to be going against a Rams offense, which is 4th in the NFL in scoring at 29.2. And then you look at Matthew's stats, which we had touched on earlier, with 35 touchdowns and a 113.1 quarterback rating. And then flip over to their defense, to the Rams defense. And we talked about it. I mean, they're legitimately stingy defense by only allowing 17.5 points per game. And so you're sitting in that offensive meeting room, and you're game planning for the Los Angeles Rams. What's the first thing you're going to be like circling about the Rams defense? You can't let them dictate, the too high shells and, try to squeeze the explosives. So you have to use Gibbs and you have to use Montgomery to force them into lighter box. So you have to establish the run and win on the ground early. That is huge. And instead of using Amon-Ra and J-Mo and Gibbs and Montgomery and the tight ends, and shuffle the deck there. You attack them horizontally, and you get those vertical seams in between the zones, and you get our players who are very good at figuring that out. You get them to attack, but you put them in motion to figure out what kind of coverage they're going to be playing. And I'll ask both of you, how do you get legitimately tired during an athletic contest? How do you get legitimately tired? Both of you. I'll throw that out there for you.
Rep, you're on the field all the time.
Yeah. Nat? Yeah. Make them run. Make the defensive linemen run from sideline to sideline and do it early. And you get their rotation going, and then you get that rotation just tired. And once they get tired, they're going to be raising their hand. Hey, I need a sub. Hey, I need a sub. Hey, I need a sub. They start subbing in and out. You start leaning on those guys enough early in the game. Come the second half, you are dictating what's going to happen in the game. And then you're also sitting in the offensive staff room, and you're like, all right, we got to keep the points down, but is this going to be a Gibbs game or is it going to be a Goff game? And talking about running the ball or Goff passing the ball. So my opinion, I think it's going to be both, because the Rams, we've already covered this. The Rams are elite at keeping the points down at 17.5. So this is where explosives matter. And J-Mo is going to come into effect. Get the ball in his hands. Now, keep the hands catching going with J-Mo. Keep encouraging that. And get the ball in his hands and let him go work his magic, whether it's deep or whether it's intermediate. Deep meaning 20-plus yards, intermediate meaning 10 to 20 yards. Get the ball in his hands early and possibly often to see if he has the hot hand for that game. And then you're also going to hit Amon-Ra off of the play action. And then once you get that identity going with the play action, hit Gibbs, hit Montgomery, let them crease the seams, because that defensive line, once you start leaning on them, they're going to get tired. And it's going to be a physical run game with our offensive line, and that has to be the mindset going into the game for the offensive line. But you don't want to abandon what has gotten you to be the number one offense in the NFL. And it's just smash mouth football. So, and then let's turn over to how are you going to defend Stafford? Well, you have to protect your secondary. How is that going to happen? You have to put Matthew on his back as much as you can legally. You have to get off the field on third downs. You make them punt. You have to shut down Nakua and Adams, and then you have to shut down the running game. But in shutting down Pakua and Adams, it's getting to Matthew. And I know Muhammad is he leading the team in sacks right now with 9, or are they tied? He and Hutch tied. I didn't know if
Muhammad's leading it, right? After that legacy game.
8.5.
Yeah, Hutch is at 8.5. So Muhammad, had a 3-sack game. He's got to keep it up. He has to be a focal point, and has to be pushed this game. Hey, you've shown what you can do. Now, how are you going to finish this season? And it starts with the Los Angeles Rams. We're going to put you in position to succeed. You just have to be able to bring it home. But and then, okay, so you're talking about pressures to let Hutch and Muhammad go do their thing. And that's where playing the 3 linebacker system or the base defense, that 4-3 defense, comes in handy, because you have we call it a big skill, meaning linebackers are able to rush the passer. And are they able to gain an edge on an offensive lineman, or a running back, because we had Blake at Michigan whenever I was there, and Blake is a good pass rusher, but Blake is just a hair undersized whenever it comes to height wise, and you can use your length as a linebacker or a defensive lineman to get inside Blake, and then quickly work on the edge to get around him, to work your way to Matthew Stafford. But okay, Brad, how aggressive can Shepard be as a defensive play caller with Branch out and essentially a rebuilt secondary? So look, you have a 8-9 year vet that you just signed in Kazee, and then Mills, plus you have Maddox and Millette, but they have to hold up in space. And how do we do that? Just play less exotic coverages, meaning it in just more 4-man rush. You got to flood the pass zones for the versus the Los Angeles Rams, but you can still bring simulated pressures and creep guys in off the edge. Hopefully it confuses the tackle and confuses the running back on who's taking who. And that's how you really take it. But I think what's really going to happen whenever you have two high-powered offenses coming into this game, the edge is going to be special teams. Who can have that one or two big returns, or possibly even game changers? Let's just call them game changers. And what I mean by that is either big return, a big play on special teams with either a block punt, possibly a fake punt, and it's sudden change. How are the Lions and how are the Rams going to respond to that? And I think the Lions are more suited to respond to sudden change more than the Rams are. Why? Because they've gone through a heck of a lot more than what the Rams have gone through this season, in having to respond to some not so good situations, either situational football, injury wise, personnel. They've had their ups and downs, and it's going to be up to the Lions to go into SoFi Stadium this weekend and come out on top, and then ride that wave after this game for the next 3 games and into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's such a good point about special teams, and maybe we can even touch further on this in the final closing thoughts segment, but not only big plays, but the level of consistency as it relates to starting field position was a game changer on Thursday night against the Cowboys. I mean, you're talking about the Lions' average starting field position being the 43-yard line. Like, that's just insane. And was also largely contributing to the Friday morning meltdown in Dallas of how do we let this team start at the 43-yard line every possession? And it's true. I mean, Tom Kennedy, who knew that was not the secret weapon, but it was, I think collectively that entire kickoff return unit really significantly contributed to that win. And that will be a huge part because, I mean, it's pointing out the obvious, but starting at the 43-yard line, what that does to the playbook, it's wide open. Get a couple of first downs and you're rolling.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I called Tom on Friday morning. He's now my financial advisor. So, I could see him just like in a 3-piece suit, just being, with the, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Let's go meet. Let's go talk about your finances.
That's right. Get some coffee or something. I love it. All right, let's that ties a knot on the coach's corner, right? We good to wrap her up for some final thoughts?
Let's do it.
All right, we do that next, and some score predictions. Don't go anywhere. It's the live Locked On Lions Squad Show. This episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends, the Car Gurus. All right. How about this? Car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars you want. because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And Car Gurus makes that whole process simple by giving you real information, real dealer ratings, and more listings than anyone else, so you can shop the way you want. You can use Car Guru's deal ratings to compare cars quickly without having to guess whether the price is fair. And you'll love being able to filter by everything. We're talking mileage, trim, features. So you're only seeing the cars that actually fit what you need. The price drop alerts are a lifesaver. You get notified the second a car you're watching becomes a better deal, and it allows you to take an in-depth vehicle and look at all the different reviews to help you understand what ownership actually looks like, not just how the car looks online. Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, the most of any major online marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. Shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy from Car Gurus. So buy or sell your next car today at cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com. 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 Final segment on the #1 sports podcast platform, the Locked On Podcast Network. Jake Riepma, Natalie Kerwin, Bradford Banta. If you've been with us live all afternoon, we appreciate that. And time, what better way to close it out than with some final thoughts? And guys, we should just say everything we said to wrap up last week's show leading into the Lions versus Cowboys, because they came out, played really well, scored 44 points, and it's going to take that type of effort. I believe you got to score probably 40 in the 40s again to win this game, maybe 30s, whatever it is. But hey, who really knows? That's what makes it unpredictable, right, Natalie Kerwin?
Correct. You're right. That is what makes it unpredictable. But I do think it's going to have to be a high-scoring game. And what they just did against Dallas, I mean, you look at what the Rams just did against the Cardinals. They put up, 45? I think that's what they just put up against Arizona. Yeah,
correct.
So, I mean, is there cause for concern with the secondary? Yes. And how they're going to game plan against that and try and essentially shred the Lions secondary. Yes, that's probably a huge part of their game plan and what they are circling. But the Lions need to go in with as much focus, if not more, than they've had all season long. Hopefully get guys back that are on the injury report right now that are listed as questionable, and go in there knowing that this is obviously huge for playoff implications. And I mean, if we want, we can go through some of those. I wrote down some of the playoff scenarios. I don't know if we even want to go through a deep dive on any of those. I don't know if we want that, but you guys want it?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're quite detailed, so it might be a lot, but so it's very important the Lions honestly win 3 of the last 4. I mean, you want them to win out, obviously, but you don't want them to split. You want them to win 3 of the last 4, and here's why. So with 4 games to go, what do the Lions need to do to make the playoffs? So if they win out, they'd finish 12-5. That would give them a 52% chance of winning the division, and 100% chance, of course, at making the playoffs. If the Lions finish 11-6, beat the Rams, but lose to the Steelers, beat the Vikings, and knock off the Bears, 97% chance to make the playoffs. If they knock off the Rams and the Steelers, but lose to the Vikings and beat the Bears, they'll finish 11-6. 14% chance of winning the division, and 97% chance of making the playoffs. So these are all 11-6 scenarios now at this point. So we're going down the ladder. If they lose this week, but win their last 3, so that they'd still finish 11-6 and have a tiebreaker over the Bears, 94% chance of the playoffs, 14% chance at the division. And then there's one other 11-6 possibility. You win the next 3 and lose to the Bears, which that Bears game is going to be, I think we all know that's going to be a receipts game. That's going to be, that really is going to be the big one at the end of the season here. They'll have no chance to win the division, 2% chance, but a 73% chance to make the playoffs. So you 11-6 would be the best scenario, because then when you go, if they split and finish 10-7, the chances go down even more. And I honestly didn't list out all of those, but it goes down from 46% chance to 45 to 44. I mean, it continues to go down, but in your best case scenario, even if you finish 10-7, you have to beat the Bears in both of those opportunities to even give yourself the best chance. I mean, that Bears game at the end of the season really is the one you have to circle to give yourselves the best opportunity for this Lions group. So it's hard. I know I just threw a lot of different scenarios at you guys, but obviously tomorrow's game, or not tomorrow's, but this weekend's game is very important. But winning Sunday and obviously winning 2 more would be the best case scenario if they don't win out. So all different scenarios here, but there is, even if they don't win Sunday, there's still a lot of hope out there for fans that are like, this is a do or die game. Yeah, yes, it would do a lot for them to win, but there still is a lot of other possibilities too if they do not get the job done on Sunday. But we're not thinking that way, but putting it out there for people.
Yeah, remaining schedule following the Rams, you've got the Steelers, and you got the Vikings on Christmas, and then the Bears, right? Am I missing?
Yep. So Rams, Steelers, Vikings, Bears. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I don't know. Bradford, what do you think? I feel like the gears are turning.
Yeah, no, gears are definitely turning. You have to look at, so not only taking into account, you got to take care of our business, meaning the Lions have to take care of their business starting this weekend. It is just one day at a time. You start stacking those great days on top of each other via practice, and then you lead that into game day. And are you ready to go on game day? You go perform your best, and you come out this weekend 1-0, and you take that mindset week in, week out. And since we're talking heads, we can also look at Packers and Bears remaining schedule. So the Packers, who have the Broncos, who are on a tear, obviously they have them in Denver this weekend, and then they play the Bears, and then they play the Ravens, and then the Vikings. They end with the Vikings. So, you look at, all right, 50-50 this weekend, Packers, Bears, that's always a heated contest. Ravens, not having a good year, you would, I don't want to use the word assume, speculate that that the Packers would come out on top on that. And then you have another divisional game with the Vikings. And then you flip over to the Chicago Bears. They have obviously Bears, Packers. Excuse me. They have the Browns. Bears, Packers at Chicago. And then they play the 49ers. They're coming on strong. And then we have the Lions game. It's going to be interesting. Right? It's coming down, and this is what the NFL wants. They want it to come down to week 18 to decide who's going to win each division. And it's going to be an interesting. This last month of the season is going to be fun to watch, and I'll be curious to see how each team responds. And it's going to come down to quarterback play. What team's quarterback is going to perform the best whenever the bright lights are on, and whenever the weather gets bad, and let's go out and play. Let's see how we do.
I love it. Let's wrap up with our score predictions. Last week, Bradford Banta had the best score prediction, 42-35. Final was 44-30, so pretty close there. Nat, yours was really good because you had the 45-35. Really, actually, so spot on. That actually, I lied. Nat's score prediction was the best. So there you go. And mine was the worst, per usual. Again, what do I bring to the table around here? Nothing. All right.
His role, his identity.
Yeah. Let me work on that here with a Lions score prediction of a win, 31-28.
Nat?
I'm going to go with Lions 34-31.
Okay. I'm going to say 38-35 Lions. So the Lions have to prove that they can go toe-to-toe with the best team in the NFC this weekend. If they can come out on top, they can use that momentum to vault them into the next 3 games.
Fire me up. I love it. I love it. Final thoughts, Natalie Kerwin.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. One game at a time. It really is. We can talk about playoff implications. We can get caught up in it. I'm guilty of it, right? I'm doing all my looking online this morning. I'm like, okay, if they do this, you know, you get caught up in it. But it really is, right? And that's how the team has to take it too. So go in, get the job done. Jared Goff, get your little revenge that you need to on Sean McVay. You know, do
again and again and again, because
and again, over and over and over.
Yeah,
get the job done.
Yeah, the Sunday night game. Yeah,
exactly. Yes. So the Lions just stick to business, do what you got to do, and come out 1-0. I like it. Bradford keeps us in check. He does. I have to admit. So you have me back on the straight and narrow here. So you're right.
Well, the Lions have to go in this coming Sunday and play like a January team. They can't play like a bubble team. Right. That's plain and simple.
Wow, I'm getting excited. So excited. I couldn't even speak right there. But later game, because it is out west. So our post-game show will be a little bit later in the evening. So make sure you join us for that. Like today's video. And good news, guys. If you missed the live show, you can be certain the audio version of today's show is available. So help me God, right on the #1 sports podcast platform.
When is it going to be available?
Immediately. Immediately
okay.
following this.
Okay.
I have 10 alarms set to make sure we don't forget to post that audio. But for Bradford Banta, Natalie Kerwin, my name is Jake Riepma. We will talk to you on Sunday after Lions and Rams. Goodbye, everyone.